Yo, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Vitamin C's. I'm your boy, Adam Taylor, and as usual, I'm joined by my homie, my compadre, my co host in crime, Mr. Tim Shields. What's poppin', Tim?
Nothing much. Still trying to beat this heat, dude. It's supposed to be 95 today, and I feel like I'm already melting.
Yo, it's called off here, dude. We were playing that just to kind of give everyone a kind of like how bad my week's been. It was that hot earlier this week that my PC's GPU fan basically just stopped working. Now, obviously, yeah, it's a little bit of an old computer anyway. So, like, I think that, it was just trying to keep up with the heat and what I use it for just weren't working. So, I had to, wait a few days, get a new computer delivered, yada, yada, yada. But we're back. Tim, I feel sorry for you, man. It's cooled off here quite considerably. It's quite cool now. I think it's like around about 70 degrees today. So, it's nice.
How many days, realistically speaking, how many days in between? So, we get hit with weather, how many days after? Like, if I'm like, yeah, it's gonna be it's 90 today. Like, how many days later is the heat wave gonna hit you guys?
Like 2 or 3 days.
Okay, because it's gonna be 100 on Sunday, so midweek might be a little bit tougher next
Yeah,
week.
so it's either, and then usually either gets weaker or stronger as it comes over the ocean. So
I'm hoping it gets weaker for you.
so if it's
Might get more
100 for you,
humid.
it might be 85 or it might be 110. You know what I'm saying? So it goes either way, man. Now, somebody else that came in hot, and I mean they came in hot, and this is going to be the topic of today's episode, is just, are we witnessing the dawn of a new rivalry? And it's kind of been bubbling away under the surface for a few years now, but they've missed each other in the finals due to, the Celtics falling at their hurdles. But they met in the finals this year against the Warriors, and since then, everyone's been talking shit. Everyone. Grant Williams talking shit. Draymond Green talking shit. And then Steph Curry comes onto the ESPYs talking about, I'm the Boston Celtics daddy. Talking about Grant Williams, I might let you wear one of my rings, but I ain't too sure yet. And like, I'm gonna be honest, man. I love that type of competitiveness. I love that type of like fire. You know, where you kind of you win and you let everybody know you win. Now that's not to say that I would be acting like that, but at the same time, if we do get another Warriors Celtics finals this year, which is a possibility. I mean, it's hard to get to the finals. There's no guarantee the Warriors make it there. There's no guarantee the Celtics make it there. But if they did, like the undertones that are going to be coming into game one, and like it's going to be insane. I mean, Grant Williams, if anyone didn't listen to it, he was on Duncan Robinson's podcast earlier this week, The Long Shot, and some of the stuff he said about Draymond was hilarious, man.
Yeah, I mean, he was flat out dissing Draymond. I mean, for anyone who hasn't seen it, Adam has a big thread on there on Twitter. I recommend if you want to get some good quotes from there, talking everything about finals trash talk between Draymond. I think infamously, Draymond said, "You want to be like me," and apparently Grant's response was, "How can I want to be like you when I'm better than you already?" Which is I love Grant Williams, but that is an outrageous thing to say to at that point a three-time champion, soon to be four-time. But I think what some of Grant's comments weren't exactly outrageous. Like not that one in particular because that one was a little bit crazy, but talking about inexperience being the reason why the Celtics lost. I think that was a clear thing, just a matter of discipline and composure. This Celtics team, this is the first time they've gone that far and against one of the toughest opponents that you could ask for. You're talking about a dynasty that has been around and established for a few times now, and they've been in that situation before. So going against the Golden State core that was that experienced and familiar with everything going on, it wasn't surprising to me that the Celtics ended up, getting handled in that regard. I don't think Grant saying that was crazy, but I will say this. I feel like some of these comments coming from Steph Curry, one kind of read a little bit corny and forced to me. And I also don't think that it feels as warranted. Like he's making all these comments of well, I own the Boston Celtics. It's this is the first time you faced them in the finals. You guys, the Warriors don't have a great record against the Celtics over the past few years. The Celtics have done well against them, better than most teams in the NBA. And it just feels forced. It feels they're trying to force this narrative of a new rivalry, right?
Yeah, and
It feels like Curry's trying to lean into it.
yeah, because rivalries sell tickets. They put bums on seats. The Celtics have got deeper this year. You know, Brogdon, Gallo. They're going to be adding another big man, and if I say that because I really hope they do. So they're coming in a much better team than they were last year, and they've had no drop off. You know, they haven't had to trade away any impactful rotation guys. They're probably going to be the best defensive team in the league again. They're probably going to make a super deep playoff run, and the Warriors might do the same on their side of on the Western Conference, and it might be a Celtics Warriors again, just like it was when it was the Warriors Cavs for a while, right? Now the difference is, I don't imagine Jason Tatum has another bad final series. I think that he's playing with that shoulder injury. He was tired. I think that the weight of the occasion weighed on him because, unlike everybody else on that Celtics roster, Jason was expected to be that guy. And sometimes when you're meant to be him, and you're not gonna, it makes life tough. Obviously, we've also got the narrative of Draymond and his wife versus the Celtics fans and the crowd. We had Draymond wearing that shirt where he crossed out the empty banner. He's been talking some shit about Grant. He had something to say about Al Horford. How you can have something bad to say about Al Horford? Like, you must be the only dude in the world, bro. But at the same time, talk your shit, man. Because that's what I want you to keep that same energy. Because when the finals come, and now it's heated. The thing was, the Celtics thrived in physical series. The Bucks series was incredibly physical. The Miami Heat series was physical. I don't think the Warriors series was that physical. I think it was intense. I think there was pick-up points were high and the rotations were crisp, but I don't think the physicality was there. And whereas I believe that Boston should have implemented that physicality themselves and dominated in that way, well, you guys are giving them a reason to want to come in and rough you up. That you're making it that way for them. You're giving them the motivation without even knowing you must be knowing you're doing it. So look, I'm all right. I like the idea of rivalries. You know, I like it when new ones form. I like it when old ones die. It keeps things fresh. But yeah, man, Steph was a little bit out of pocket with a couple of those jokes.
I will say this though, at least like Steph earned that right to talk trash, right? Draymond Green going around and talking trash is like when Kendrick Perkins was like taking like photos with the Cavs championship trophy. Like, I'm sorry, Draymond like disappeared. So like when he comes out and says like, I knew that we got in their heads, and it's like, Jaylen Brown had a great final series. Outside of the turnovers, he was fantastic. Like, when the Celtics had a chance to go up 3-1 there was a conversation about who had the best chance on the Celtics if the Celtics win this series, who was going to get Finals MVP. And it was like Jaylen Brown was like a heavy contender for that.
If they won, he would have been Finals MVP. He was electric.
He was fantastic. Yeah. He was great. So for him to go and say like, oh yeah, I was in Jaylen Brown's head, and it's like, dude, no, you weren't. If that's what you call being in someone's head, like you got like a timeshare. You got conned into a timeshare. Like you ain't got like permanent real estate there, man. So, I don't know, hearing Draymond talk and, like, doing all of this, showboating and everything, it's kind of like, okay, all right, they're going to remember this. Like, I hope you realize, like, you're giving them loads of bulletin board material, and maybe that's, like, this is what's best for the league, right? Like, the league is definitely going to lean into this whole rivalry. I wouldn't be surprised if, we see some time changes, and whenever the final matchups come out, not like finals, but, their rosters, and you're seeing everything going on with scheduling, I expect there to be a big rematch between these teams, and it could be on a big holiday. Maybe it's Thanksgiving or Christmas. I don't know the exact schedule and when that's supposed to come out, but, it's a possibility that the league is going to milk this for everything that they can.
Oh, for sure, dude. And I'm fine with that. Like I said, I want that to happen. But you got to be ready for what comes. Boston, like the Celtics guys, don't play. Tatum, whenever Tatum's been antagonized like this in the past, he's always come out and smoked fools. And that's just always been his MO. If he struggles, he bounces back. If you antagonize him, he flips the switch. Now, personally, I've seen a lot of people like Andrew Wiggins had Tatum in his pocket. And I'll be honest, Andrew Wiggins was exceptional throughout the entire playoffs. Prove that he was one of the better wing stoppers in the league. Prove that he could go and get his own buckets off the dribble, off the catch. He was good. He was like ridiculously good. Is he capable of keeping Tatum in his pocket when Tatum's not struggling? When there's no shoulder injury? When Tatum can start using his body to seal you off? No, he's gonna cook you because he's cooked better defenders than you. You know, obviously I can't say that Wiggins didn't play well. He did solid over a 6-game sample size now in a potential 7-game series. You cannot ask for any more. But I do not know if he can repeat such a performance if Tatum comes in motivated, especially if it's a regular season Christmas game where Tatum's still, the stress of a season on your body hasn't really started to wear on him yet because we're only in December at that point. I expect that, but I'd like Boston to play a bit of possum. If they believe they're getting back to the finals and the Warriors start hot like they did the last season, play possum a little bit. Don't show them everything. Don't dominate that game because you want them to keep talking trash. You want them to come out on Boxing Day, on December 26th, and be like, yeah, I told you we had Boston in our pocket. I told you we're going to cook them fools. Because we care more about June, bro. When we get back to June, and all of a sudden it's a gentleman's sweep because Tatum's averaged 38 and 9, then now we can change the narrative. And I think that's a genuine possibility. Angry Tatum's a thing, dude.
Well, I think the biggest comparison I think of is LeBron, right? Like, when was the last time that there was this kind of dominant wing player? And I think Tatum is capable of doing that kind of thing on the offensive end. He's a great three-point shooter. And I think that's the thing that probably bothers me the most looking back on that playoff run is if they didn't have these injuries, how does that final series turn out? If they don't go to 7 games against the Bucks and the Heat, like that definitely drained them, and especially for Tatum, he got hurt during that Heat series. I think it was some kind of collision with Oladipo, and that changes that whole finals series because of that injury. So in hindsight, it's one of those things where I think now that they've added a guy like Brogdon, they've added Gallinari, they're making that rotation deep so they can survive some rest days, so they can be able to throw some bodies in there during the regular season. So by the time the playoffs roll around, they're fresher, they're deeper. You're not going to have a situation where all of a sudden, you're turning to your bench unit late in games when you're up by 10 or 15, and all of a sudden you got to throw your starters back in the last 2 minutes because the league got whittled down to 5. Because that was a major problem, not even just for Ime Udoka. It was something that was happening regularly with Brad's team, the year before and the year before that. So I think this is one of the deeper teams that Celtics have, and I'm interested to see if we do actually see a rematch of that finals, because it would be really interesting. That Warriors team is very deep. They've lost a little bit of pieces here and there, but they're also adding a lot of pieces. They just added JaMychal Green off of a buyout. I don't think that's been finalized yet, but JaMychal Green's a nice piece. As soon as I saw that he was getting bought out, I was like, great, maybe the Celtics can go after him. And then he immediately got scooped by Golden State. So I'm just like, man, I need to see the Celtics add at least one more big before I'm like, okay, I think they got a really, really good chance of like running it back and getting there. I mean, there's not a lot of teams in the East that scare me as much. But the Warriors are still that team that you're going to have to go through. You have to expect you're going to have to.
Yeah, no, I mean, I'm down with that, man. Like, bring me whoever. And, like, that's always been my mentality. If you want to beat the best, you want to be the best, you got to beat the best, right? But when you're looking at it like, the one thing that got me, man, from Grant, when Grant was like, yeah, I know Draymond's the king of trash talking and I'm not really going to compete. So I went home and did my research, found out he'd had an altercation, got knocked out. So I'm on the floor and I reminded him of that. I'm like, dude, you remember when could you imagine you got knocked out like 30 years ago? And you're playing ball, or like, let's say 15 years ago, you're playing ball against someone, they're like, dude, you remember when so-and-so knocked you out? Like, apparently that shut Draymond up for the rest of the game. Like, Draymond, like, that's what Grant said. Like, Draymond didn't respond because what are you gonna say? But then you look at like,
yeah, I do.
You look at like when Draymond was going at Perk, and Perk kind of done that response. Like, everyone in the league knows you're not about that. You're not that guy. You know what I mean? So then for Grant to be like, dude, you're not that guy. You know what I mean? You're not that guy because you got knocked out, and you're meant to be an athlete, and the dude that probably knocked you out was just an average Joe. Like, I found that hilarious, man. That's some brave stuff from Grant, and I like where Grant's going in terms of his his ability to play those mind games, because yeah, he's not better than Draymond Green. I think we can all accept that. Draymond is an elite defender. He reads the game exceptionally at an exceptionally high level. Grant Williams is a 3-and-D wing that's a catch and shoot dude. I mean, there's a chasm of skill level between the two. And Grant's trying to level that playing field by being like, dude, I remember when you got knocked out.
He's smart.
Yeah.
That's the thing. And so is Draymond, too. Like, Draymond, like you said, is able to read the game. And defensively, he's what ties that team together for the Warriors. But in terms of, like, what Grant can do is he's incredibly intelligent. And you use your smarts to your advantage. You want to be better, but also just play smarter. Find ways to get under guys' skin, because that's what Draymond prides himself on. That's what Draymond claimed. He got under people's skin. He got under people's head. As soon as that happened, he thought that the series was over. So if you can play those mind games, you can play them well. That's a way to level the playing field and kind of bring someone down to your level.
Yeah, you put them in the trenches, man. I've always been taught that whenever I've been doing sport, combat or basketball or whatever. It's if someone's better than you, find a way to limit them doing what they do best. And sometimes that's just by simply annoying the life out of them, man. Being that really aggravating type of dude that's going where you're just like, you're so angry. But you see, the downside is sometimes that makes people better. Some people play better when angry. I don't know what it is.
When they're mad.
Jason Tatum plays better when angry. Tim Shields plays better when chill. It just all goes in with that narrative. But I did like this episode. I kind of just wanted to hit on that. Just like, are we seeing the dawn of a new rivalry? Is it really a rivalry? Is it being manufactured? Are the league pushing this, or is it just some dudes that are gloating? And that should be a way that like the Celtics should take that as kind of a compliment, because the Warriors haven't really acted like this after winning a championship. Somewhere down the line, they've either felt like they really had to work for it, or that the Celtics and the fans were a little bit obnoxious, which we know they felt, especially when they were all chanting "fuck you" to Draymond and whatever it may be. But no matter what it is, they definitely feel some type of way, and I'm okay with that.
Yeah, I'm definitely okay with that, and I think what you said too, in terms of they've never acted like this after a championship. I think that's part of the reason why it feels manufactured. Because you've never seen this Warriors team act like this after winning a title. Even after beating LeBron, it just doesn't feel like we've ever seen that kind of celebration, that kind of gloating. So it's just new territory. And maybe, I think the Celtics should take that as a compliment. They should also take it 100% as bulletin board material. Use this as motivation. This should make you pissed off. I mean, it makes me pissed to a degree, but I'm also just kind of like taken aback by it. It does feel like it's the start of a new rivalry, and that is good for the NBA. But yeah, some of the stuff is definitely crazy and out of.
I'm gonna end it on this. As you get older, especially like I'm noticing this at the moment. I'm 34 at the moment, and what I'm noticing is every year I like less and less new music that comes out. Right? I listen to all the I listen to new music all the time, and it's a lot more difficult for me to find good songs I would deem good, because I have a very specific taste in music, and that makes me be like, man, these kids just don't know. You know what I mean? These kids don't know. And then there's not a rivalry, but there's kind of this difference in taste. I'm like, my stuff's better. And now you're getting that with the Warriors and the Celtics. The Celtics are this young team that play a very bullish, abrasive brand of basketball. And the Warriors are this aging team, trying to listen to the new songs, not really liking them. And they're going out of their way to be like, you don't know how good we are, how good our music is, how good our brand of basketball is. Y'all don't know. And the Celtics are like, yo, you're old. You know what I mean? This can be a rivalry, but it's going to be short-lived, because you guys are retiring in the next 12 to 18 months because you're all on your last legs. And that kind of feels what it is to me. It's like the angry old man sitting on his porch shouting at kids for having some fun, And that's kind of going to be the way I view this if it is a rivalry, because I'm like, man, I was listening to a track today. I was like, yo, this is dope. Like new. Check it out. It's Alien Ant Farm. It's a band I grew up listening to. They've just released a remix. I'm like, no wonder it's dope. It's the old school. So it's one of those. Steph Curry might be, well, he is the greatest shooter of all time. And you can, when you're literally one of the best to ever do it, you can go and talk your shit. But just remember that there's going to come a time, sooner or later, where your talk is bigger than your game, and that's going to be a long way away for Tatum and Brown. So if you do meet them in the finals next year, you guys need to hope you're healthy, because Tatum and Brown are going to be ready to fight. Yeah? You happy with that? You want to leave it there?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
All right, with that, make sure you like, subscribe, leave a comment, follow me, Tim. We're both cool people. And Tim's going to make a wicked-ass thumbnail. So you would have seen that by the time you clicked on it. Everybody have a good one. We'll be back on Monday. Deuces.
Cheers.